When you think about gender and leadership in a workplace, what is the first thing that comes to mind?
I think what comes to mind is predominantly a male that's white and a CEO or a president of a company. You don't really see females in those roles, especially, I mean, I look at big companies like Apple, whether it was Steve Jobs or currently Tim Cook. I think that there's a big difference, but I think growing up, if you look at who's in these predominantly not, I wouldn't say male roles, but predominantly high up business roles, it's almost white men all the time. So I think that's something that not only an organization needs to strive to make different. I think, I don't know, I think if we change it as a culture universally, growing up, that, hey, I'm a woman, I can be this. There's been those commercials of what is it like to love.
All right, so the question was, what are my thoughts on gender roles and leadership within the workplace? Truthfully, I feel like there's unequal treatment between males and females. From personal experience and working with friends, I can testify that right off the bat, males rise up the ranks faster than females. Females can work just as hard as a male, but the male is going to get the promotion over the female. I don't agree with this system, truthfully, because I think females are more organized, more secure in their work, and more driven most of the time. In addition, I've actually worked several jobs with friends where we both went in for the same interview. We're told we get the same pay, we work it out, everything will be good. Paychecks come, and then my paycheck would be 25% higher than my friend who did the same job. And we would leave that company and go to a different company. But I guess the principle stands that there seems to be more unfair treatment towards males than females, which I don't agree with because, like I said, some of the hardest workers I've ever worked with, and actually, if I were to name some of the best business people, have been females. And I just think that that's not right for the workforce.
I think there is a difference between how men and women lead in the workplace.
The short answer is yes. The longer answer of that is that I don't think that it's an intentional difference. I don't necessarily think that men act a particular way because they think about it, or that women act a particular way because they think about it. But I do think that because of the ways in which gender is socially constructed, it's sort of necessary that they would, or leads naturally, that they would actually have different leadership styles in the workplace.
So has this affected you as a leader?
I think yes, and not in a terrible or bad way. I think I like to analyze all my leadership, and it could be a boss or it could be somebody that just has a leadership opportunity. I like to take their whole persona, like their whole thing, and I like to take what they do well and what they don't do well, and I take a mental note of saying, like, I don't ever want to do that, and hopefully somebody can call me out on that, or if I do, like, correct it. So I think in my experience of the differences in, you know, whether if I was teaching or higher ed, or if I was in, you know, in the corporate world, I took the good things out of everybody. Even when I had a boss that, oh my gosh, it was Hitler. And as hard as it was, I was able to take good things out of that person and say, yes, I'm never going to do that. I don't ever want to be that person. Or, you know what, even though that person was crazy, they did this very well. Maybe we could have taken the crazy out. So I think out of everybody, it was a learning opportunity to be able to apply in my own life and how I treat others. And, you know, and if the opportunity ever comes to me where I can have a leadership position, you know, is exercise what I've learned in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen a change in how a company or organization balances between men and women leadership positions?
Well, I think that in society today and big business, we're starting to see a change, and the people aren't wanting the same old, like, male-dominated leadership styles. They're kind of realizing that women have a lot to bring to the table. They value emotion, they have great ideas, they're creative, and I think people are really wanting to see that, and that's becoming something to be sought after rather than, like, pushed away as it has been in the past.
Fascinating. So, in your experience, have you witnessed this in a group setting where those stereotypes come out and in your, I guess, personal career path?
Yes. Some. You know, I have heard lots of stories, but since you asked me if I've witnessed it, I will just share a couple of my own experiences. So I have experience both from a corporate setting with major organization, major corporate setting, but I also have not-for-profit leadership experience. In particular, I'll talk a little bit about both of them. So in my early career, there definitely were some subtle, not very overt instances where I may see that more men might make partner or the highest level. And so I can't speak to what stereotypes were there, but I can speak to the actual existence of not as many women making it to the highest levels of those organizations when I first started in my career. But when I went to go lead a not-for-profit organization, it was really interesting because I didn't have problems at work leading, and I led in a faith-based organization, so if you can only imagine the thoughts that there were people, some people feeling like, okay, should a woman even be leading in this organization, and especially at this high level, because I had a national leadership position in a large faith-based organization. But I didn't have problems at work. And it maybe at that particular time, it was because that organization that had asked me to come in had already prepared itself. I was the first woman ever called to be the national director of that organization, which was really interesting. But I think that that organization was really smart, and that it had prepared itself not just for a woman leader, but for a new leader. But what was interesting is my preparation to lead in that organization is where every now and then, because I had additional degrees that I went after so that I could make myself qualified to be able to lead in that type of setting. And I remember one time that while I was in school, when I was in graduate school, earning another degree in that area, that I had received a fellowship to actually mentor other leaders around the country. And most of those leaders were men. And I remember the first day that these male leaders of all of these other organizations around the country had met me. They were like, this is your assigned mentor, and this is the person who is going to be taking you through your development as you all are in school. I had received a fellowship for that. I remember one guy, he was so nervous when he met me, and I don't know what he thought Rhonda was going to look like, or maybe he didn't know until he got there. But he was so fidgety the entire time, as everybody, the rest of the men that were in my group were just fine, but this one gentleman was so fidgety. And finally, about lunchtime, he decided to excuse himself from our group. It was just one individual, and he just could not wrap his mind around. It didn't matter that I had already earned this fellowship, that I had already was about to graduate from this particular organization, and I had all of this experience. He just could not wrap his mind around a woman teaching him how to lead a large faith-based organization. That was funny. So he excused himself, and I was like, that's okay, because I had a whole bunch of other folks. But that was just one of my experiences. So in the preparation, I had some barriers, but in the organization itself, I think the organization realized that people lead, and we just need a good leader, and that was a great experience.
Our article was the influence of gender and leadership style on career commitment and job performance of subordinates. The part of the article we found most important is where it states, "It is worthy of note that there is no right way to lead. Different leadership behaviors can result in the same level of perceived effectiveness in the management role. What is also known is that the demands on leaders are growing in the world becomes a more complex place. Markets become more competitive, and the worldwide war of talent and expertise heats up. The wider the range of leadership skills and abilities an individual can bring to the organization, the more certain they can be of successfully overcoming the obstacles and exploiting the opportunity that today's managers must meet on a day-to-day basis. There is the need to step back and investigate whether there are differences in how women and men lead in organizations. Gender and leadership styles can be responsible for differences in job performance and career commitments among subordinates. This, therefore, leads to the following 4 hypotheses postulated in this study." Here were the 4 hypotheses that were postulated in the study. The first one is there would be a statistically significant difference between male and females on career commitment. The second is there would be a statistically significant difference between autocratic and democratic styles on career commitment. The third hypothesis is there would be a statistically significant difference between males and females on job performance. And the fourth hypothesis is there would be a statistically significant difference between autocratic and democratic styles on job performance.